Her mate was stolen again. The Alpha King found the broken Omega beyond the waterfall. The wind howled through the cliffs above the waterfall, carrying whispers of sorrow and long-forgotten promises. Mist rose like a veil over the rocks, twisting and curling in shapes that seemed almost human, almost alive. Beneath the roaring cascade, Lyra crouched, arms wrapped around her knees, feeling the damp chill seep into her bones. Her eyes, once bright and full of hope, now seemed hollow, reflecting the pale gray sky above. She was alone. Again. Once she had known warmth, a hand that fit hers like it was made of her own skin. Bay. A mate who promised safety, love, and protection. But he had been taken from her, stolen by forces she could not name, forces too cruel and merciless to fight. Pain lingered in her chest, sharp and unyielding, as if her heart had been carved out and replaced with something fragile, something that could break again at the slightest touch. Lyra's breaths came in ragged gasps, mingling with the roar of the waterfall. She had walked for days through the forest, hiding from the hunters, the shadows, and even herself. Her steps had taken her to this cliff, to this waterfall, the place everyone in the village feared. The elders whispered that the water carried the memories of lost souls, that it could show you visions of the past, or of what you had lost forever. Lyra had not come for visions. She had come for silence, a brief pause from the endless ache in her chest. She had barely noticed the forest around her. Trees bent under the weight of frost, their branches creaking and groaning. The moss that grew on the rocks glistened wetly in the dim light, and the scent of damp earth filled her nose. It was a cold, lonely place. But she had grown used to loneliness. Pain became a companion over the weeks, constant and quiet, like a shadow following her through every step. A faint sound reached her ears, a snapping of twigs. Lyra stiffened. Her first thought was fear. The forest had been silent for hours, yet now something moved within it. She turned slowly, trying to see past the curtain of mist. Shadows flitted between the trees, shadows that did not belong. She pressed herself closer to the rocks, trembling though she did not know if it was the cold or the fear. Then from the mist came a deep voice, calm and commanding, like the rumble of distant thunder. Lyra. Her heart skipped a beat. The voice was familiar. So familiar that it made her chest ache in a way she had almost forgotten. She blinked through the mist, searching for the owner of the voice. Breath. And then she saw him. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving like a predator through the fog, but not threatening. Not entirely. Kael, the Alpha King, stepped into view. His eyes were like storm clouds, gray and sharp, yet holding a depth of emotion that made Lyra's knees weak. His presence filled the space around her, heavy with authority, with power, yet tinged with something softer, something dangerous but protective. He was the one who had ruled not just the pack, but the lands, feared and revered in equal measure. And now he was here, searching for her.
"You shouldn't be here," he said softly, his voice carrying both warning and relief.
It is not safe. Lyra shook her head, turning away, hiding her face against her knees. I have no place anymore.
My mate is gone.
He was taken from me, and there is nothing left for me in this world. Her voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried the weight of despair. Kael crouched a few steps away, careful not to close the distance too quickly. He did not reach for her, did not demand her attention. He simply watched, letting her grief speak for itself. I know, he said.
I have heard what happened, but hiding here will not heal you, Lyra.
You are stronger than you believe. Lyra's laugh was bitter. Stronger? Look at me. I am nothing but a shadow of who I was. Spect. My heart, it is broken. Again. Psst, psst. She pressed her fingers against her chest, as if trying to hold the pieces together.
Why even bother to live when everything you love is taken from you?
His gray eyes darkened with the weight of his own memories, the battles he had fought, the losses he had endured. He had seen brokenness before. He had seen Omega mates lost to pain, lost to despair, and he had always vowed to save them, even when the cost was great. He had never lost one like this. Not until now. You are not nothing, he said firmly. You are not a shadow. You are Lyra. And I will not let you fade into the mist like this. I will find a way to keep you safe, even if it means walking through hell to do it. Bay. Lyra shook her head again, tears slipping down her cheeks, falling like rain onto the wet rocks. I am not yours to save, she whispered. Pet, you do not understand. I was stolen before. My mate, he loved me, and yet they took him. And now he is gone forever. Do you think I can survive being taken again? Kale's eyes softened, yet the steel in them did not waver. It is not about being taken, Lyra. It is about choosing who you allow to stand with you when the storms come. And right now, I stand with you. The words echoed in the mist, strange and unfamiliar. Lyra wanted to pull away, to deny the truth in them. But the warmth in his voice reached a part of her she thought was dead. Memories stirred, memories of being safe, of being cherished, of a hand held firmly in hers against the darkness. She wanted it. Bish. She wanted it desperately. But fear still ruled her heart. Kale took a slow step forward. The mist swirled around them, almost alive, as if aware of the fragile bond being tested in that moment. I will not force you, he said. I will wait. I will stay until you are ready. Lyra's hands trembled. She wanted to believe him, but her soul was wounded too deeply. Her mate had been stolen once, and the memory haunted her every step. Why me? She asked, voice trembling. Why not someone strong, someone who can face the world without falling apart? Because you are not weak, Kale said quietly. Because the world may take what it wants, but it cannot take your spirit unless you let it. And I will help you find it again, piece by piece, if you will allow me. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Only the waterfall spoke, roaring endlessly, carrying away the echoes of sorrow. Lyra lifted her head slightly, her hair wet and clinging to her face. She looked at Kale, really looked, and saw not just the Alpha King, not just the predator feared by many, but a man who understood loss, who had known pain and yet had chosen to fight anyway. You would do this for me? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Kale nodded. For you, I would face anything. The darkness, the shadows, even the creatures that lurk beyond the waterfalls.
Nothing will stop me from bringing you back to yourself, Lyra.
Best. You are not lost, not while I draw breath. Her chest tightened, bed. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, a flicker of something warmer than fear rose inside her. Something fragile but insistent.
Before either of them could speak again, a sudden movement caught Lyra's eye.
Bear. Across the misty cliff, a shadow shifted, fleeting, almost human. She stiffened, heart pounding. "Kale, someone is there!" she whispered. Kale's gaze sharpened, and in a blink he was on the edge of the cliff, eyes scanning the mist. "Do not move," he ordered, voice low and dangerous. His hand hovered near the hilt of a blade she had not noticed before, one carved from dark iron etched with symbols that glimmered faintly in the mist.
The shadow did not speak, but it lingered, watching.
But Lyra felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Her past, her stolen mate, memories of fear. Everything rushed back, swirling like the mist around them. She wanted to run, to hide forever, but Kale's presence kept her rooted, safe, yet trembling. Finally, the shadow disappeared into the trees, leaving only the whisper of movement in the leaves. Kale turned back to her, his eyes dark and unreadable. "It is not over," he said quietly. "The dangers have not ended, but we will face them together." Lyra's lips parted, but no words came. She only nodded, feeling the strange stirrings of courage and trust in her chest. She was still broken, still fragile, but perhaps, just perhaps, she could survive again. And perhaps, with Kale by her side, she could begin to hope. The waterfall thundered around them, carrying away the last echoes of her despair, or so it seemed. Beyond its mist, shadows lingered, watching, waiting. And, somewhere deep in the forest, the memory of her stolen mate stirred, a reminder that the past was never far behind. Lyra drew a shaky breath, letting the cold mist wash over her. She had nowhere to go, nothing to hold on to, but Kale's hand, though not touching hers yet, seemed to promise a path forward. A path through fear, through grief, through the storm. And as she lifted her gaze to meet his, the first flicker of determination shone in her eyes. Perhaps she was broken. Perhaps she was lost. But she was not finished. Not yet. The mist from the waterfall hung heavy in the air, wrapping the forest in a damp, ghostly silence. Lyra followed Kale cautiously, each step over the slippery stones making her heart beat faster. Best, every roar of the water seemed louder here, echoing off the cliffs, as if warning them to turn back. Yet Kale moved with ease, as if the forest itself bowed to him.
"You must be careful," Kyle said, his voice low, a rumble of command tempered with concern.
"The path beyond the waterfall is treacherous, not just in stone and water, but in spirit." Lyra shivered, though not from the cold. "Spirit?" she asked, glancing at the swirling mist. "What do you mean?" Kale's gray eyes softened, yet they held the sharpness of a predator watching its prey. "There are forces here older than the mountains, older than kings. The mist carries visions, illusions, meant to trick the weak-hearted.
It can show you your deepest fears, or your deepest desires. We must be ready for both."
Lyra swallowed hard, the memory of the shadow from earlier still prickling at the edge of her thoughts. Her chest felt tight, as if the grief and fear she carried would squeeze her lungs until they could hold no more air. Yet, despite the terror, she moved forward. Kale's presence gave her a strange, fragile courage, a sense that she might survive this, after all. They walked together in silence for a long while, the mist curling around them like living fingers. The forest was silent, except for the constant rush of water from the falls and the distant cries of unseen creatures. Lyra's thoughts drifted to her stolen mate, the one who had been ripped from her life before she could even begin to love fully. The memory made her chest ache. She had convinced herself she had moved past the pain, but now, standing here with Cale, she realized that loss was a shadow that never truly left. "Lyra," Cale said suddenly, halting her steps. His hand rose slightly, not to touch her but to signal caution. She froze beside him.
Do you feel it?
A shiver ran down her spine. The mist thickened, curling into shapes that almost looked like hands reaching for them, like the ghosts of memories long buried.
The air grew colder, and the roar of the waterfall seemed to form voices, whispering her name, calling her back to the past. Lyra nodded slowly. "Beck, I feel something," she admitted. Fear and curiosity mingled in her chest. She wanted to run, to hide, yet some part of her wanted to face whatever lay ahead. She wanted to see if she could survive this trial. If she could prove to herself that she was not the fragile Omega she had been made to feel. Kyle stepped closer to her, his presence a shield against the unseen danger. "Do not let the mist fool you," he warned. "Hold on to me." "Do not let your fear guide you." Lyra did as he asked. Bah. She followed him closer, their steps careful and deliberate. The mist seemed almost alive, twisting around them, forming fleeting visions of people from her past. For a moment she saw the face of her stolen mate smiling at her with warmth and love. Her heart jumped, and she almost reached out, but the image vanished, replaced by a darker figure with hollow eyes, a shadow of vengeance and anger. Her knees buckled slightly, and Cale's strong hand steadied her. "Do not look away," he said, his voice both gentle and commanding. "Pace. What the mist shows you, but do not let it control you." Lyra closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The waterfall's roar was deafening, yet beneath it she could hear Cale's heartbeat, steady and strong. She focused on that, holding on to it like a lifeline. Slowly, the visions around her began to fade, though the fear lingered. They continued, the path growing narrower and more dangerous. Rocks slick with moss made every step precarious. Vines curled around their legs, as if testing their resolve. The mist thickened, and a faint glow began to shine from deeper within the forest, shimmering like moonlight on water. Cale stopped again, pointing to a cluster of glowing stones. "The path splits here," he said. "One leads deeper into the danger. The other is a dead end. You must trust me, Lyra. Trust me to lead you where you need to go. Best." Lyra's heart raced. She wanted to doubt, wanted to turn back, but something in Cale's gaze gave her courage, inspiration. Slowly, she nodded. "I trust you," she whispered. He offered a rare, fleeting smile. "Good. Hold my hand when we cross the next bridge." "It is not solid. The water below would take us in an instant if we falter." The bridge was nothing more than a thin span of stone worn by centuries of water and mist. Each step was perilous, and the roar of the falls seemed to grow louder with every heartbeat. Lyra's fingers gripped Cale's tightly, as if the connection could keep her from falling into the abyss below. Halfway across, the mist shifted violently, forming a figure in the center of the bridge. Its shape was dark and indistinct, yet somehow familiar. Lyra froze, fear rooting her to the stone. Cale's grip tightened around her hand. "Do not falter," he said. His voice was steady, though his eyes glimmered with a warning she could feel in her bones. "Whatever this is, it cannot harm you if we stay together." The figure on the bridge moved closer, and Lyra saw a flash of eyes, pale, empty. It was her stolen mate, or a memory of him, twisted by the magic of the waterfall. Her chest ached with grief and confusion. Lyra, Cale said, his voice urgent, you are not him. He is gone. Hold on to the present. Hold on to me. Her tears blurred her vision, but she focused, letting the warmth of Cale's hand anchor her. The figure lunged, dissolving into mist as their combined will held it back. The bridge trembled beneath their feet, and for a moment it felt as if the world itself wanted to swallow them whole. But they did not fall. Together they reached the far side, and Lyra collapsed onto the stone, shaking, exhausted from fear and emotion. Cale knelt beside her, brushing damp hair from her face. You are safe, he said softly. But for now. Lyra leaned against him, feeling the strength in his presence, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the warmth that reached through her fear. But why? Why are you helping me? She asked, voice trembling.
I am not even ready. Ready.
Becked. Because you deserve it, he said simply. Because the world has taken enough from you.
And because I will not allow you to face it alone. You may be broken, Lyra, but you are not beyond saving.
Her chest tightened at his words. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt a glimmer of hope. The pain of her past was still there, sharp and raw, but it no longer consumed every thought. They moved on, deeper into the forest. The glow from the stones faded, replaced by shadows that twisted unnaturally. Strange creatures slithered through the mist, half seen and silent. Lyra's nerves were taut, but Cale's steady presence allowed her to face them, to walk past them without running. At last they came to a small clearing. The mist parted slightly, revealing a pool of water illuminated by the faint light of the moon. The air was warmer here, almost soothing. Cale paused, letting her catch her breath. This place, Lyra whispered, awe and fear mingling in her voice. Bear, it feels different. Cale nodded. It is the heart of the waterfall, he said. The magic here is old. It can heal, but it can also trap those who are weak in will. We must be careful. Lyra stepped closer to the water, drawn by its strange beauty. Her reflection shimmered on the surface, distorted by the ripples. For a moment she saw herself not as broken, not as lost, but as she might have been, strong, free, and whole. The vision faded as quickly as it had come, leaving her breathless. Cale watched her silently, understanding the emotions that roiled beneath her calm exterior. He knew the pain she carried, the longing for what she had lost, and the fear that it might all happen again. And yet, he also knew that she had survived this long, against impossible odds. That was proof of her strength, even if she could not see it yet. As they rested by the pool, a faint sound reached them. Soft footsteps, careful and deliberate. Lyra stiffened, fear flaring once more. Cale's hand went to the hilt of his blade, eyes scanning the mist. But not everything here wants to harm us, he said cautiously. But we cannot be sure yet. Stay close. From the shadows stepped a figure, cloaked in dark green, almost blending with the mist. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She could not tell if it was friend or foe, ally or enemy. The figure paused, then spoke, voice low and deliberate. You are not safe yet, it said. The one you seek is closer than you think. but danger follows in his shadow. What do you mean? He demanded. The figure did not answer directly. Instead, it faded back into the mist, leaving only a whisper carried on the wind. The past will not let go, and the bond you seek may demand a choice you are not ready to make.
Lyra's hands trembled. The fear in her chest returned, heavier than before.
But beside her, Kale's hand found hers again, firm and steady. The reassurance was small, but it was enough for now. She met his gaze, a mix of fear and determination in her eyes.
I am ready to face it,
She said, though her voice wavered. If you are with me. Kale nodded, his gray eyes softening slightly, though the storm within them never fully calmed. Always, he said. We face it together. Whatever comes, we face it together. The mist swirled around them. The waterfall roared endlessly, and shadows lingered at the edges of their vision. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and full of magic older than the mountains themselves. But for the first time, Lyra felt a spark of courage ignite within her. The journey beyond the waterfall had begun, and nothing, neither shadow nor curse, would stop them from moving forward. The forest beyond the waterfall felt alive in a way that unsettled Lyra. Shadows clung to the trees like dark stains, and the mist curled around her ankles, whispering secrets she could not understand. Every step forward was heavy, as though the forest itself resisted their passage. The air smelled damp and earthy, mixed with something faintly metallic, like blood long forgotten. Bay. Kale moved silently ahead of her, his form a steady presence through the shifting mist. Even in this strange, enchanted place, he seemed unshakable. Lyra's gaze followed him, tracing the strength in his shoulders, the sharpness in his eyes. She wanted to feel safe, wanted to believe that he could protect her from everything. But the shadows seemed alive, and fear gnawed at the edges of her courage.
Lyra, Kale said softly, breaking the silence.
Best. The forest can feel it. It will try to play tricks on you.
You must stay calm. I am trying, she whispered, her voice trembling.
Bay. But it feels wrong. Like something is watching, waiting. Ben. He reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face.
Fear is natural, he said gently.
But we will face whatever waits together. Trust me.
Lyra swallowed, trying to anchor herself in his words.
She wanted to trust him fully, but a part of her heart still feared that she would be taken again, that her stolen mate would return in some terrible twisted form to reclaim what she had once lost. The pain of that thought pressed on her chest, heavy and sharp. They walked on in silence, the mist growing thicker, until they reached a clearing. Here, the forest opened to reveal a pool of black water, perfectly still despite the waterfall's roar behind them. The surface shimmered with a strange light, reflecting not the forest above, but visions of the past, present, and possible futures. Kyle approached the pool cautiously, his eyes narrowing. "This is a place of power," he said. "It can reveal truth or lie. We must be careful. The forest will show you what you fear most and what you desire most." It may be difficult to tell the difference. Lyra stepped forward, drawn to the water despite the fear curling in her stomach. She saw herself reflected in the black surface. At first it was the Lyra she knew, broken, frightened, lost. But then the image shifted. She saw herself strong, walking beside Kale, unafraid, breath. She saw the life she might have if she allowed herself to hope. Her chest ached.
The reflection was beautiful, but it was also a reminder of what she had lost, what she had been denied.
Her stolen mate appeared briefly, smiling at her with warmth she remembered, before the image darkened, twisting into a figure filled with anger and shadow.
Her knees weakened, and she stumbled, gripping a nearby rock to steady herself. Kale's hand found hers. "Focus on me," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Do not let the visions control you." Lyra took a deep breath and nodded, letting her gaze settle on Kale's eyes. His presence was real, tangible, a lifeline in a world that felt increasingly unreal. Slowly, she drew strength from him, letting the reflection fade. The shadowed figure dissolved into the water, leaving only her own reflection, trembling but unbroken.
You are stronger than you think, Kale said, quietly squeezing.
Bay. Stronger than the forest, stronger than the mist, stronger than your past. Lyra swallowed hard. I want to believe that, she admitted. But it is hard. So hard. Kale's eyes softened. "I know," he said. "That is why I am here. You do not have to face this alone." You never did. The mist shifted again, and Lyra felt a sudden chill. The forest seemed to darken, as though a shadow had passed over the sun. The whispers in the air grew louder, voices speaking in a language she could not understand, yet each word carried weight, a pull at her heart. Kale's hand tightened around hers. "We are not alone," he said. "Something watches us." Before Lyra could respond, a figure stepped from the shadows. Bay. It was her stolen mate, or at least a version of him. His eyes were pale and cold, and his expression carried something she had never seen before. Hunger for what had been taken. "Lyra," the figure said, his voice soft, yet edged with something dangerous. "You belong to me." She had dreamed of this moment, feared it in her darkest hours, and now it stood before her, more real than she could bear. "No," she whispered, taking a step back.
You cannot take me! Kale moved in front of her, his form a shield. "Step away," he commanded, his voice low and dangerous.
She is not yours to take. She is here by choice, not by force.
Bend. The figure's eyes narrowed. "Choice," he said, voice sharp. "She was taken from me once. You cannot claim her now. The bond is mine." Kale's jaw tightened. "Bonds are not chains," he said. "They are trust, respect, and love. And you have broken hers. Twice."
Lyra's chest tightened. She felt anger rise, not just at the shadow before her, but at the memory of everything she had endured.
For the first time, she did not feel fragile. She felt fire. "I am not yours," she said, voice trembling but firm. "You do not get to decide what I am, but I am mine. I choose who stands with me."
I choose who I trust. And I choose Kale.
The shadow faltered as if her words struck something deep within him. The mist swirled violently, and the forest seemed to tremble. Lyra's knees shook, but Kale's hand held hers steady. "You see," he said,
voice soft. You have power. You have strength. You always did. The figure dissolved into mist, leaving only echoes of anger behind. The forest grew still again, the whispers fading into the roar of the waterfall. Lyra's breath came in shaky gasps, and tears filled her eyes, not of fear, but of release. Cale knelt beside her. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Best." Lyra nodded slowly.
I think.
"I am beginning to be." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but there was determination in it now. "I am tired of being afraid." Cale smiled, though it was brief, almost hidden beneath the storm in his eyes. "Good, because there is more ahead." "The forest will not let us leave easily." "Bad. Magic like this does not forgive weakness." They rested by the edge of the pool, letting the silence of the forest wash over them. Lyra leaned against Cale, allowing herself to feel the warmth and safety in his presence. The fear was still there, lurking in the corners of her mind, but she had faced it, and that alone gave her courage. "Bed." After a long moment, Cale spoke again. "The curse is not gone."
The forest protects what it values. To move forward, we must face the source, the heart of the waterfall.
"That is where the magic is strongest, and where your past and future collide." Lyra nodded, determination settling in her chest. Bet. She would face it. She had to. But for the fragile spark of hope she felt growing inside her. As they prepared to move deeper into the forest, a faint glow appeared ahead, soft and pulsing like a heartbeat.
Lyra stepped forward cautiously, feeling the pull of the magic. It was alluring, dangerous, and beautiful all at once.
Cale's hand found hers again, grounding her. "Whatever we find there," he said, "we face it together. No matter what shadows rise, we will not falter." Lyra took a deep breath, drawing courage from him and from the growing strength inside herself. "Together," she repeated, the word firm, steady. It was a promise, not just to Cale, but to herself. The glow grew brighter as they approached the heart of the waterfall. The mist swirled violently, and the roar of the water became deafening. Shadows twisted and writhed in the periphery of their vision, as if alive.
Lyra felt the pull of the magic, whispering to her, testing her, challenging her.
She clenched Cale's hand tightly, drawing strength from the touch. She was afraid, yes, but she was no longer broken. She was no longer the lost Omega who had wandered alone through the forest. She was Lyra, survivor of loss, bearer of courage, and the one who chose her own path. And beside her, Cale was her anchor, her protector, her companion through darkness and light alike. The mist parted to reveal the source, a hidden cave behind the waterfall, glowing with an otherworldly light. The walls shimmered as if alive, and the air hummed with power. This was the heart of the forest's magic, the place where curses were born and tested, where the past could reach out and touch the present. Lyra stepped forward, holding her head high. "This is it," she said, voice steady. "Best, we face it. Whatever comes, we face it." Cale's gaze softened, but his eyes remained sharp. "Be ready," he warned. "The forest will not yield easily, and neither will the shadows of your past."
Lyra nodded, feeling the fire inside her grow. She was ready, not just to survive, but to reclaim herself.
To face the curses, the shadows, and the echoes of her stolen mate. The cave swallowed them both in light and mist, the roar of the waterfall behind them, the unknown ahead. The cave behind the waterfall shimmered with a light that felt alive, pulsing like the heartbeat of the forest itself. Mist swirled around Lyra and Kale as they stepped deeper, the roar of the waterfall echoing through the cavern. Every sound, every shadow seemed to breathe, as if the place itself were watching them, testing their resolve. Lyra's hand clutched Kael's tightly. The warmth of his presence grounded her in the face of the unknown. She could feel the weight of her past pressing against her, the memories of her stolen mate, of the fear and grief that had followed her like a shadow for so long. She had faced the mist, faced the illusions, and faced herself. But what awaited here was different. This was the heart of the forest's magic, and it held a power older than any curse she had ever known.
Kale's voice was calm, though it carried the weight of authority.
Psst. This is it. The forest does not give up its secrets easily. Whatever waits within will test not just your strength, Lyra, but your heart. You must remember, fear is natural, but it cannot guide your choices. Despera, trust yourself. Trust me. Lyra nodded, drawing a deep breath. She had survived the illusions of the mist, had faced the shadows of her lost mate, and had felt the strength rising inside her. She was no longer fragile. She was ready. A soft light glimmered ahead, revealing a figure standing in the center of the cavern. Lyra's breath caught. Her stolen mate. Or at least the echo of him. The part of the forest's magic that had preserved his image, twisted by pain and longing. His eyes were pale and cold, yet they burned with a hunger that unsettled her. "Lyra," he said, his voice low and reverent, yet edged with anger. "You belong to me. You were taken, yes, but you are mine. You cannot deny what we shared." Lyra's chest tightened. She had dreamed of this moment in nightmares, feared it in waking hours, and now it was real. But she was not the same Omega who had been stolen once. The fire within her had grown, forged in grief and courage. She stepped forward, shoulders straight, voice trembling yet firm. "Psst. No," she said. "I am not yours. You do not decide what I am, or who I trust. I choose my own path, and I choose Kale." Her words seemed to ripple through the cavern, shaking the shadows. The stolen mate's expression twisted, as if her declaration wounded him as much as it freed her. He stepped closer, and the air around them thickened with the forest's magic. Swirling like a storm, Brask, Cal moved beside her, his presence a shield, his hand brushing against hers. "She is not yours to claim," he said, voice low and dangerous. "She is free to choose, and she chooses to stand with me. Step back, or face the consequences." The echo of the stolen mate paused, the forest holding its breath. For a moment, silence stretched across the cavern, broken only by the roar of the waterfall. Then, with a sudden explosive surge, the figure lunged, shadows twisting and dark energy coiling around him.
Lyra's heart pounded. She felt fear rise, but it was tempered by the courage she had gained.
Bai tightened her grip on Kale's hand. "We face this together," she said, her voice firm. Kyle nodded. "Together," he repeated, and stepped forward, his presence commanding the magic of the forest. He moved with precision and authority, positioning himself between Lyra and the shadowed figure. The stolen mate's figure twisted and shifted, memories of the past and pain of loss bleeding into the present. "Lyra," he hissed. "The bond we shared is eternal." Lyra shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "A bond is not eternal if it is taken by fear and pain. Love is not chains and trust is not ownership. I remember, but I choose now. Well, I choose life, I choose hope.
I choose Kale. Her words rang through the cavern, resonating with the magic of the waterfall.
The shadow faltered, the twisted energy around him dissolving like mist in sunlight. Lyra felt a surge of power from within herself, a strength she had not known she possessed. The pain of the past still existed, but it no longer ruled her. Kale's eyes softened as he watched her, pride and relief mingling in his gaze. He stepped closer, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "You are stronger than even you realize," he said quietly. "Bah. And you never had to face it alone." The stolen mate's figure shuddered, twisting one final time before dissolving entirely into the mist, leaving only the echoes of memories behind.
Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted, trembling, and yet victorious.
She had faced the past, confronted the curse, and chosen her own path. Carl knelt beside her, lifting her gently. "You did it," he said softly. "You faced the forest, the shadows, and yourself, and you came through stronger." Lyra's lips curved in a small, weary smile. I did not do it alone," she admitted. "I had you with me. Always." Kyle's gaze softened, a rare, tender expression breaking through the storm in his eyes. "And I will always be here," he said. "Through fear, through danger, through everything. You are not alone anymore." The mist began to clear, the roar of the waterfall fading to a gentle murmur. Light from the cave's entrance spilled across the cavern, warm and golden. For the first time in weeks, Lyra felt the weight on her chest lift. The pain of loss and fear still lingered, but it no longer defined her. Baze, she was free, not just from the forest's magic, but from the shadows of the past that had haunted her. Kale extended his hand to her. Lyra took it, feeling the strength and warmth in his grip. Together they stepped toward the cave's exit. Outside, the waterfall sparkled in the sunlight, cascading down into the river below. The forest seemed alive with possibility, the shadows retreating into the edges of memory. Lyra breathed deeply, filling her lungs with the crisp, clean air. "It feels different," she whispered. "Like the world is lighter."
Kale smiled, though his eyes remained sharp. "It is," he said.
"Because you are no longer carrying the past alone. You have faced it. And you have chosen your path."
That makes all the difference.
They walked together toward the edge of the forest, hand in hand. The mist clung to the ground but no longer felt threatening. Instead, it seemed protective, a witness to the courage and strength Lyra had found within herself. "Kale," Lyra said, her voice soft. I never thought I could feel hope again. I thought the pain would never end. But now,
I believe I can survive. I believe I can.
Love again." Kale's gaze softened, and he brushed her cheek gently with his thumb. "You can, and you will. Together we will face whatever comes next. The past has no power over you anymore." Lyra's eyes glistened with tears, not of sorrow but of release. She felt the bond with Kale strengthen, deeper than fear or obligation, rooted in trust, courage, and the choice to stand together. They reached the waterfall's edge, the mist rising around them in gentle waves. The sunlight broke through the trees, casting a golden glow over the rocks and water. Lyra paused, taking in the beauty of the world she had once thought cruel and unforgiving. Kale's hand found hers again, and he pulled her close, his presence steady and protective. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The world is vast, and there are many challenges ahead. But now, we face them as equals. Together, feeling the warmth of his strength, the comfort of his presence, and the thrill of hope rising in her chest. Together, she repeated, but for the first time in a long time, she felt whole. The pain of loss was still a memory, but it no longer ruled her. The shadows had passed, the curse had been faced, and she had chosen her own path. She had chosen life, hope, and love. Breath. Kyle kissed her forehead gently, a gesture of promise and protection. The world may still hold dangers, he said softly, but nothing will break what we have built here. Nothing can take you from me, and nothing can take the strength you have found in yourself. Lyra smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of triumph, of release, of transformation. I am ready, she whispered. Ready for everything ahead, as long as we face it together.
The waterfall roared behind them, mist curling like silver ribbons in the sunlight.
Bay. The shadows lingered only at the edges, powerless against the bond that had been forged through fear, grief, and courage. Lyra stepped forward, hand in hand with Kale, ready to face the world, ready to embrace the life she had chosen, ready to love again. And as they walked together through the forest, the wind carried a whisper, not of fear, not of loss, but of promise. A promise that the past could be faced, that hearts could heal, and that love chosen freely was stronger than any curse.